Hello.
Hello, Sophie.
Hi. Okay, it worked.
Yes, the link. How are you? I can't see you.
Oh, wait.
All right. People entering. Hi, Sophie.
Wow, why is it so red?
Yeah. Hi, Natalia.
Hey guys.
Hi. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes
Uh-huh.
to join.
So, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, hey.
Hi. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm in um, rehab now.
You're in rehab.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, but I'm fine, thanks.
Were you
Yeah.
having surgery or?
No, it's psycho issues.
Hey, okay. But you're getting better. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for
yeah.
joining us.
Because yeah, I'm so Sophie is now here.
Sophie is here, and we're just going to wait for the rest of the bunch to come. There was a little bit of a communication error with the link that was sent, so
Finally, it's here.
I'm
How are you?
good. I'm good. I've been really
Yeah.
busy, but things are good, and yeah, I can't complain too much. I mean, it's been a tricky time, but you know, things
You
are.
adjusted now. You are making your appointments online or
Yeah. I mean, I work a lot from home,
yeah.
and yeah, so I'm very busy, but from home office, but I'm also at the gym, also working there. So yeah, Sylvia,
Hi.
hello, long time no see. How are you?
Good, good. What about you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's a surprise to see you.
I'm really into sport and nutrition lately, so it was just perfect. I was just so interested in
Wonderful.
this.
Thank you so much. Hey, Tim.
Hi,
How are you?
good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. A little bit crazed because in the last moment, I was told that the link had not been sent out, but you received the invitation. Uh, so we're just gonna wait a couple more minutes for the rest of the group to join. Yeah.
Okay. If you don't mind, I'll put myself on mute because I'm still cooking, and I'll switch to the iPad later on. But at the moment, I'll just have it on my phone.
Awesome.
Cool.
Great.
Nice. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Lots of information to get through, but I hope that, you'll pick up some good advice. That's kind of the goal of it today.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah,
I'm interested. I'm curious.
cool. So we'll just wait. We'll wait a couple more minutes,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Who else is there?
We have Sophie, we have Natalia, we have Sylvia, and there should be a few more people coming. And I think Donald is coming. So we'll see, but we'll start and people can kind of join as they come.
I like the new hair, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's very short. It was kind of like I didn't know what to do with my hair all through, this winter, and then I was like, you know what, just cut it off. Cut it off.
I had kind of the same idea. It's like not as short as yours, but
Hmm.
it's like chin length.
Yeah,
I did it myself, which was scary, but
that's very brave of you. That's
I thought
very brave.
it's good because then I have a story to tell at least about
Yeah,
lockdown, right?
exactly. Okay, well, it is 7:40 and I don't want to keep you here all night. So we will start, and when others join, they can kind of come in where they hear. So, Tim, that looks really good, whatever you're cooking. So, welcome. Welcome to this nutrition webinar for this evening. I just want to make sure you guys can all hear me completely clearly. Yeah? Okay, awesome. So we're going to go through a lot of information tonight, things that you will be able to kind of relate directly to you or people that you know. And so I'm sure a lot of questions will come up. We will have a question and answer kind of, time discussion at the end. But if you do want to, write a question, you can put it also in the chat as well, and we can just go from there. Okay. So really, this webinar tonight is for intuitive thinking, feeling, and living with food. Understanding your goals, whether that's weight loss, creating habit change, lifestyle change, and with a better, we're just gonna let somebody in, with a better understanding of how, when, why we have certain relationships with food, as well as our behaviors with our food. Hello, Silke.
Hi.
Hello.
Sorry for my delay.
That's okay. That's okay. Welcome. We just started. So I'm just going to share my screen quickly. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can do it.
Okay. Just give me 1 second. Okay. And is it big enough? Can you see the entire screen?
Yeah, that's for me, it's fine.
Okay. All right. There it is. Okay. Oops. All right. You can still see it? All right. Perfect.
That's perfect.
All right. Great. So this webinar is called Shop, Cook, Eat, Live. So exactly what you see there. It's not about diet plans. It's not about I'm giving you a list of food for you to eat, things that you're not allowed to eat. This is not a definitive do this or do that. Everyone is completely different and on a different journey, and it's finding out what works for you. Thinking and, more importantly, feeling what is your relationship with food? What role does it play in your life, going beyond the physiological need that food brings? We're going to look at the self-talk, the negotiations we make, the all or nothing mentality, the pressure that we put on ourselves to do things perfectly, and kind of our obsession with, diet and diet culture and what that does to our mentality. I want to discuss creating habits. This is kind of the main focus of this evening, and practicing actions that will become habits, learning skills that you can practice repeatedly and repeatedly well. You'll hear me say that a lot tonight. Things that will be able to sustain you throughout your life, okay? So it's not about restriction, it's about gaining tools. So what I've done is I've created these 4 pillars: where and how we buy our food, how we prepare our meals, the act of eating, and of course, living our life. Okay? So the first place that we're going to look at is the grocery store. This lovely diagram here. She's socially distanced with a mask on. And we're going to be talking about mapping out your grocery store, reading and understanding nutritional labels, food manufacturing and setting yourself up for success. So the most important thing is that we need to make friends with the grocery store. It's there for us to better understand what we have control over. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is mapping it out. This is the everyday grocery store that we go to that's around the corner from where we live. So the place that we go kind of Monday through Friday, and buying the food that is our staples that we need. So creating the list of things you always need. So your vegetables, your meat, your fruit, your fish, your dairy, your eggs, your go-to staples. It's really important not to go in blindly. Know what you need, okay? I'll get into a little bit more of the detail, but know where the things you need are. Getting into that is shopping the perimeter. So everything that is fresh or non or partially manufactured will be in the perimeter. So generally when we go into every single grocery store, we see, the vegetables, we see the fruit, we see, maybe the refrigerator with the salads, depending on the size of your grocery store. And those are the places where the food is going to expire. We want to stay there, okay? Everything else, as we know, is in the center, okay? This will prevent us from kind of roaming around the store looking and getting tempted. So knowing where your trigger points are, okay? Know where the products you need are, okay? So this kind of goes further into knowing where your vulnerabilities lay. Often when we start to kind of roam around the grocery store, we start to see things that we're tempted by. We start to see things that, we know that we're going to be kind of negotiating with, right? It's really important to know and be prepared to be tempted. Know that these things are there, and the store almost wants you to know that they're there. Grocery stores work hand in hand with food manufacturers, and we'll get into the manufacturing later, but it's really about being aware of your vulnerabilities. Ask yourself, do I want this? Do I need this? Why? What are the conversations that you're having with yourself, okay? It's important to not ignore it. Let that part speak, right? Because if you ignore it, it's just gonna show up somewhere else, right? And it's knowing what you have control over, okay? So this is, I'm gonna say this a lot tonight, but, taking responsibility for all of your actions, okay? So something that we either pay too much attention to, or kind of it's like on one end of the spectrum, we pay so much attention to it, or we don't pay any attention to it at all, is reading and understanding the nutritional fact label. So one thing that I've done a lot of market research lately, and nutritional fact labels do change quite constantly. They are constantly revising them, adding new information, taking away certain information, and companies do this to get people to buy more, right? So the things that you should pay attention to that are always there on the label are the number of servings per container. What is the serving size the label shows? So generally, and products do this now, which is have the single serving in one column, and then they'll have the entire content, the entire calories per content of, your tub of yogurt, for example. So being aware of how many servings you are consuming. So let's say the yogurt has 100 grams is one serving, right? And you're planning on eating 2 servings. You can very easily do the math and figure out how many calories you are going to be consuming. Check the total calories. Find out how many calories are in the single serving. So again, if you're eating 200 grams of yogurt, do the math, you could be having 140 calories when you really wanted to only have, 70 calories or something like that. Okay. We all know what calories are. They're the amount of energy released when your body breaks it down. So the more energy that you are consuming, the more you have to work to get rid of it, right? Otherwise, it will be stored in your body as fat. So this is the calorie deficit or a calorie surplus. When you're eating in a calorie deficit, you are expending more energy than you're consuming. When you're eating in a calorie surplus, you are eating more calories than your body is actually using up. Okay? So the nutrients in the on the label is really important, because you want to look for foods that contain more of the nutrients that you want in your everyday diet. So your dietary fiber, your vitamin D, your calcium, your iron, your potassium. Things that you want to stay away from are things like saturated fat, sodium, and of course added sugars. And we'll talk about added sugars in a moment, and sugar in general. One thing that a lot of people don't understand, because it's kind of there, and it's kind of just like a percentage sign, and you're like, okay, well, I don't really know what this means, so I'm just going to ignore it, is the daily value percentage. This is the percentage of each nutrient in a single serving in terms of daily recommended amount. And it's really a guide to help make informed decisions for foods. So if a label lists 15% of calcium, that one serving provides, it's 15% of the calcium you need each day. So the percentage daily value is based on 2 sets of values. It's the daily recommended for vitamins and minerals, and also the reference standard. So the percentage daily value is usually based on a 2,000 calorie diet for a healthy adult. Even if your diet is higher or lower, you can use this as somewhat of a guide. Okay. It is important to kind of understand how they calculate it. So let's say on the container, and here I have a diagram of a nutrition fact label. So let's say they have, saturated fat, 4.5 grams. What happens is they divide the nutrient, or so the serving size, and times it by the daily value, divide it by the daily value, and then times 100. So you've got, let's say, saturated fat, 4.5 grams, divided by 23, which is your daily value, equals 19.5%. So that's it's a good metric just to be aware of. Okay. Give me 1 second. All right. So a nutritional label is generally based on about 2,000 calories a day. So that's a good indicator to see where you're at. It's really important to look really at the serving size, because you want to know how much you're eating. Manufacturers can so easily trick you. I looked at a box of cookies the other day, and literally one serving size of the cookies was half of the cookie. Are we really going to eat half of the cookie and put it back? No. So another one was a quarter of a chocolate bar was one serving size. Okay, so that's really important when you're looking at making kind of a a lifestyle or nutritional change in your life. Okay? Educating yourself on the countless names of sugar printed on the label is valuable, because sugar goes by so many different names, and manufacturers are smart. They use this as an advantage to sometimes, unfortunately, confuse consumers, and they add multiple names of sugar to actually hide the exact amount. So it's important to understand these little nuggets of information. Another thing is that ingredients are listed by quantity, highest to lowest amounts. So you want to look for real food in the first three listed ingredients. Okay? And we'll get into this in a second of how they can so easily trick you. So food manufacturers' words of wisdom. Companies do this because they know people will buy it, because they know people are, in a way, ignorant or not knowledgeable about really what's inside of when it says natural or no sugar added. So I just wanted to go through a few of them here. Natural, meaning the manufacturer worked with a natural source, for example, apple or rice. So you would see this often in things like yogurt or cereals, okay? No sugar added. The product may be high in sugar already, and unhealthy substitutes may have been added. Low fat. Fat has been reduced at the cost of adding more sugar. That one really scares me, because I used to buy low fat all the time. Now, whenever I see low fat, I always go to the regular product. They have added more sugar, but they have reduced the fat. We need fat. We need good fat. We don't need more sugar. Multigrain. More than one type of grain has been is there, but it is most likely refined. And the thing that is key here is that refined grains have a longer shelf life, because they have been significantly altered. Okay. Oh, got somebody coming in. Okay. They've been significantly modified and altered from their natural composition. And the process includes mechanical removal of bran and germ. And the refined grains are enriched with vitamin B and iron. But unfortunately, the fiber is not. So this is what extends the shelf life. So you can find this in white flour or white rice. These things have a very long shelf life. That's why it's important to buy foods that die quickly. Low calorie. A low calorie product has approximately a third fewer calories than the original, but one brand's low calorie product could have the same amount as another brand's original. So that's, again, kind of on the same side as low fat. You don't know what else they are putting in, okay? Zero trans fat on the product, so it's labeled zero trans fat, but has partially hydrogenated oil in the ingredient list. Ingredients include some fat, but less than 0.5 per serving. So look at the serving size, okay? So really, at the end of the day, it's about being the shopper you want to be. Stick to your map, know what your intention is, take control of how you want to shop. Knowledge is power. Learn, read, listen, be aware of your grocery store habits, and curate your go-to list. Be curious and, ask questions, and take responsibility around every purchase that you make. So when you want to buy the chocolate next to the batteries and hand sanitizer at the checkout, think about why they have been very strategically placed there. Okay? So we're going to get into a little bit of science here. Cooking and preparing. Roasting, steaming, and pan frying or sauteing. And we're going to be talking about preparing smartly and how your environment matters. Okay? Up until now, are there any questions? No.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm still trying new headset, always a mess. I didn't fully get the % of daily recommended amount. For example, if it's a low %, does it mean that you kind of don't need that value at all in your daily life, right?
Okay, so generally it's kind of the opposite. So 5% is low, 15% is high. So if it is high in a percentage of fat, saturated fat, sodium, then, it's definitely, you want to stay away from that. So something, if you see 15% in vitamin A, B, C, iron, and calcium, go for it.
Okay, so that covers the total intake of that specific thing in one day. So that means that it covers too much because you're not going to eat anything else for the rest of the day. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
I get it. Thank you.
No problem. So roasting, boiling, and cooking. There's so many different methods of cooking. We're not going to so much talk about meat today. I wanted to focus more on vegetables. It's kind of interesting to know how, vegetables do change, and there's a lot of myths and misconceptions and misunderstandings about what happens to a vegetable when it is cooked. So kind of the most important thing to know, there's lots of important things to know, but all cooking methods alter nutrient density and benefits. So some destroy particles, some methods destroy particles and some enhance the particles and nutrients, so the vitamins and the minerals. Okay? Vitamins are water soluble. So what happens when you cook them in water is that the vitamins leach out. So you see this when, let's say, you are boiling carrots or you're boiling broccoli, in a bath of water. The water will generally turn, a lighter shade of that vegetable, so green or orange or whatever. These are the vitamins kind of leaching out. So they are there if you use it, to use it in a soup to create a vegetable broth. But if you're just throwing it down the drain, then you're getting rid of all of the vitamins and nutrients. So for example, vitamin C, B1 found in broccoli or folate are incredibly vulnerable, and they just break apart. What happens is when the vegetable is heated in the water, the cell wall breaks open, and the vitamins just kind of disintegrate into the water. So microwaving or steaming or using as little water as possible preserve the nutrients. So a lot of people think, microwaving vegetables, I don't want to do that because of the microwave waves. But actually what happens is the vegetables are heated from within, so it actually preserves the nutrients. So the cell wall that I was just explaining doesn't burst open. Okay, so I can give you some good examples: zucchini, carrots, beans. when they weren't cooked in water, they have found that they have significantly higher levels of phytonutrients, and these are nutrients or they're compounds found in plants that provide a lot of health benefits, like disease protection, for example. Eggplant actually has, preserves almost all of the antioxidants when it's, when it is sauteed or steamed. Okay. Sauteing vegetables is probably the most beneficial way to obtain all of the nutrients. And that's because most vitamins and minerals are fat soluble. So nutrients that are fat soluble, like beta carotene, vitamin D, K, work well and work for you when they're cooked in fat. So like extra virgin olive oil or coconut oil. So sauteing in a pan is always a great go-to. Your body absorbs them better with fat and increases the absorption of phytonutrients, which your body needs. So the fat actually carries the nutrients from the intestine to the bloodstream much easier. So it's kind of almost like a nutritional buddy system, if you will. Roasting or baking is, I just learned this really, it's a hit or a miss, and it's really dependent on three things. So it's your oven temperature, so your dry heat, the time spent being cooked, and of course the specific vegetable you're using. So the nutrient capacity will decrease in some, and others, some others will kind of, gain access to more nutrients. So for example, broccoli, celery, eggplant, onions, they really have been found to keep their antioxidant capacity. But for some reason, green peppers have lost it. So again, it's really dependent on the vegetable that you're using. Dry heat, so roasting or baking, helps to release the natural sugars. That's why roasted vegetables taste so damn good. They go through a process of caramelization, so the natural sugars come out. It's this browning effect, and it's a non-enzymic browning effect reaction that happens when there is no water. Okay. We'll talk about glycemic index in a second, because that is a major factor as well because of the sugar content, but I'll get into that in a second. Another little thing that, is a valuable little piece of information is adding citrus to your vegetables. So lemon, orange, grapefruit, lime. It's a great way to help digest iron. So for an example like spinach or kale that contains a lot of iron, unfortunately, it's in a form that's not really easily digested by your body. So what the citrus does is it reacts chemically, changing it into a form that's much easier to absorb by your body. Okay. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about potatoes, because potatoes are one of these things that people kind of get fearful of. They see a white potato, oh, it's the scariest thing. They see a sweet potato, oh, okay, it's healthy. Really, the biggest difference between and there's so many different types of potatoes, the biggest difference between a white potato or brown potato and a sweet potato or yam or purple potato is really white and brown potatoes they have so much potassium, whereas a sweet potato has a lot of vitamin A, which can assist in other aspects of your life. But really, potatoes are they're so good for us. They're no fat, they're low cholesterol, they are nutrient packed with vitamin B6, magnesium, and they have more potassium than a banana, which I did not know. I just read this very recently. So we need potatoes. Potatoes can help us with our weight loss, believe it or not. It is, though, a large starch carb, so we do need to eat it consciously, okay? The starch takes up about 85% of the potato, and it is made of two molecules, amylase and amylopectin. And again, the way that we cook, the method that we choose to cook, can really change the structure. So, for example, boiling alters the chemical structure, but it prevents a blood sugar spike, okay? And it is much easier to digest in your body. Roasting, however, destroys this resistant starch, and it caramelizes and releases natural sugar. That's why we get such a nice, sweet, delicious taste, okay? But this is where I want to talk about the glycemic index, because the glycemic index measures how much certain foods and cooking methods increase blood sugar, and it's kind of dependent on the time and the method that it's cooked for. So the score of the glycemic index ranges in 3 levels, 1 to 100, and it is low, 55 or less, medium, 56 to 69, and high, 70 or above. So a roasted sweet potato for 45 minutes in the oven, it has a glycemic index of about 82. And you can kind of compare this to that much sugar. It's about a serving size, one, chocolate chip cookie. So the sugar is released, it tastes delicious, but you're eating a lot of natural sugar, so it's not refined. But again, if you are in a calorie deficit program, or that is your goal, roasting is definitely not the way to go. But if you boil it for 30 minutes, let's say, it has the glycemic index of 46. Or even if you boil it for 8 minutes, like a sweet potato can boil for a very short amount of time, it has a glycemic index of 61. So it's just kind of a little bit of information just to kind of get you to understand, the benefits of, different cooking methods and how each of those vegetables change their nutrient capacity when heat or water is involved. Okay? I just spoke a lot. Does anybody have any questions at the moment? No?
Yeah, I would have a question.
Yes.
Regarding the resistant starches.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard about this before, and my awareness was they like build up in the potato once it cools down, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So is there, because you were distinguishing and saying, okay, this is a specific process that appears to happen in boiling versus in roasting.
Mm-hmm.
Can you clarify a bit on this? Because I'm just not that deep into the topic, and maybe you can say a little bit more about that.
So the starch sits through the potato. That's why it has that very specific texture. And when you boil it, this alters the structure of it completely. So even when it does cool down, it doesn't kind of, in a way, go back to where it was. Does that make sense? Because it's already broken down the structure of it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I also have just something quick to ask, just if you happen to know, or what about cooking with fat?
Mm-hmm.
Does oil alter its nutrition if it's cooked or raw? Like, is it better to use it to cook or to add it raw afterwards? What's the difference, if you happen to know?
So when you use when you put like olive oil on non-cooked vegetables.
For example, you use oil to do saute, or whether you do saute and then you add just raw oil on top. I know that, for example, olive oil might be a bit better raw, but I guess coconut is better to cook. I don't know if you know the difference.
I think I know what you're saying. So when you are cooking, the kind of the limiting factor here is when heat is involved. So when you're cooking something, when you're cooking a vegetable in on the stove or in water or in the microwave or whatever, the vegetable is softened, right? And that is how and so what happens is the cell wall starts to open up, and this is how the olive oil kind of penetrates the vegetable, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Okay, yeah. I see. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so now that we've kind of talked about different methods of cooking, where we buy our food, I want to talk about preparing our food. And this is kind of my favorite thing to talk about because it's more of the holistic side of things, but it's about preparing smartly and making your intention a priority. So the things that we'll go through here are making your intentions a priority, creating complete meals, normalizing and routinizing eating habits, preparing and storing food that you will want to reach for, adopting a weekly ritual, and of course, looking ahead at potential obstacles and setbacks. So I guess the first thing that you have to ask yourself always is, what is your intention? Create the goal and make it happen. Like I said at the beginning, there is no magic pill. You choose what you want and how you want it, and you go after that. You can't do or create behavior unless you help yourself do a behavior. So unless you plan and prepare and facilitate taking action, you really can't do anything. So I like to use the how before what approach. So make sure you know how you will help yourself, okay? So you need to know how you will find the time to prepare food, how you will learn skills that you will be able to begin to practice, okay? The what will be more clear and easier to do when you establish, how am I going to do this? For instance, how am I going to understand how to shop, right? How am I going to learn to choose the right foods? It's so important to not feel helpless, because if we don't make time, it's so easy that time, will be taken away from us. So the best way is to start small with small action in the direction of your ultimate intention. I always say to clients is that taking small action doesn't require us to change our mindset, our motivation, our sense of self, or how we feel, but it will change our perspective and our drive and our emotions when we start to do it repeatedly and repeatedly well. Action comes before motivation, and motivation will always follow. I like to just use the kind of, analogy of, being part of a CrossFit box, because, taking action is walking in the door, and, as soon as you're able to, you do your first, your first toes to bar, right? Then all of a sudden this motivation starts to build, and you want to repeat that, right? We want to repeat what works well. So taking notice of what works well, collecting that data and repeating it. Okay. So it's like taking action is like a declaration of our intent. Creating complete meals. So we have found when you pick you will overeat, you will trick your stomach, and this will lead to, not knowing exactly how much you have eaten. It becomes mindless, or it becomes something that we just, aren't aware of. When we purposely make a full meal, we know that this is lunch, this is breakfast, this is dinner, this is my midday snack. You want to start to acknowledge being able to create whole meals for yourself, okay? Prepare and store things that you will want to reach for. So what I do, I'll tell you what I do, is whenever I bring home vegetables, I cut them up right away. And I store them, because I know these are the things that I will need at the last minute for snacks for my daughter. For me, when I need to run out of the house, I need to bring something with me. Fill the fridge with things that are already prepared for you. It's about kind of mitigating chaos, right? It's about being prepared, especially when you are on a weight loss journey or a specific program. You want to have things in the fridge immediately, okay? Normalize and routinize eating times and habits. So this goes a little bit along with creating complete meals. Your stomach and gastrointestinal tract love routine. And that will start to work for you. That will work for you. It won't work against you. So practice scheduling meal times. Practice scheduling appetite check-ins. Okay, we'll talk about physiological cues in a moment, but it's really important to start to routinize your eating times. Okay, so 3 meals a day, generally in and around the same time. Regulating appetite and hunger cues and satiety signals along with digestion involves, a ton of nervous, endocrine, and GI tract systems, and your body wants to be on a regular schedule. Look ahead at potential obstacles and setbacks. So, life happens and things, plans change, we have to be prepared for anything. And so the more that we can prepare, the more we can be ready for those obstacles, the better we will feel about our choices and our preparation. So environment. Your environment affects your choices. We have many environments where food is involved. So whether that is at home, whether that's in the office or your place of work, whether that's on the street, whether that's in the airport. And I guess you have to ask yourself, how much control do you have over your environments? And what can you do to mitigate, this vulnerable area when you, for example, share your space at the office or at home when you're sharing a home with, your entire family. This is where I like to talk about establishing criteria for better. And what this means is identifying, I like to call them the red, yellow, green light foods, identifying for you the foods that are red light, yellow light, green light. So I guess you're all intuitive enough that you can figure out what that means. And it's about, being in a situation, in situation X, what is maybe just a little bit better than food Y. So for example, I know my husband tells me this all of the time. They have a big, company meeting and they bring in catering and they've got the bagels and they've got the Danish and they've got the smoked salmon and they've got the sandwiches and they've got the fruit plate. And in situations like that, it can be really tempting to want to just reach for the muffins or want to reach for the Danish or want to reach for the sandwich with the sauce and everything else. It's finding for you what is just a little bit better. So for example, instead of the sandwich, I'm going to have the bagel because I know it's not slathered in sauce and mayonnaise and everything else in between and bologna. I don't know if there's bologna in Germany, but processed meats. You can choose the bagel and put a piece of salmon as much as you want on that bagel. Okay? So it's asking, what is just a little bit better. And I know it may sound trivial, but it's so easy for in these circumstances or in these situations to slip up or to not, just have somebody coming in, or to, choose the food that goes against what you have been working on. Okay. So explore the decision making that you use to define what better is for you. So develop a realistic standard of better for yourself. And once you start to do that, you may not feel so overwhelmed by, your choices because you know that you have decided what is better for you. So realistic standards. Okay. When it's there, it will keep letting you know. So this is kind of more about your home life. One thing that I deal with my clients is, they live at home with their families and they've got, treats and they've got, fruit yogurt for their kids. They've got, sugary granola bars. They've got, a lot of stuff that they don't necessarily want to have. What I like to tell them is don't hide the food. Don't not buy it if that's valuable for your kids, if that's what you want to have for your kids, if they've done well in school, whatever. Put that food together and put it in a place, you don't have to hide it, where you can see it. I have a client that calls this section of her kitchen the red shelf, which I love. And it's there in plain sight, but all of that food that she knows that isn't what she wants for herself is there. And then she can make the conscious choice whether she wants that or not. Okay? It's psychological, but I think, when it's not mixed in with what you want to have, when it's there staring at you in the face, then you can make the most, informed decision for yourself. And speaking of family, ask yourself, who is your support system? What kind of people do you want supporting you? And once you know the kind of people, and sometimes you're just kind of stuck with them because they're your family, tell them exactly how you feel you need their support. Be clear in your communication. Be clear about why you are focusing on your nutritional lifestyle. Okay, and the changes that you have made in your life, the better that you can communicate that and why you value that, the better everybody else will be. Okay, does anybody have any questions so far? No? All right. Okay, just give me 1 second. Okay. So, we're going to talk about eating. Hunger cues, portion size, hand to mouth, the act of eating, and fullness cues. Okay, so hunger cues is appetite awareness, the physical sensations in your body, the thoughts and feelings, and establishing appetite check-ins. So what do you think a hunger cue is? Somebody throw out an answer.
You feel in your stomach bubbling, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, Tim?
I get quite irritated.
Irritated. Okay. What else? What about like physically do you feel?
I could feel like I lose attention. I feel sleepy, tired.
Yeah. Being intuitively aware of your appetite is a very valuable thing to have. And it is completely normal to be out of sync with this cue until we are truly feeling starving. That's when we start to feel, like you said, Tim, irritated. You start to feel, dizzy, sleepy. You feel kind of empty and hollowed out a little bit. And so, often we can suppress hunger with coffee, with gum, with skipping or restricting meals. And so basic appetite awareness is one of the most useful and accurate ways someone can recognize how much food their body needs. So pay attention. This will help you regulate intake and energy balance and to easily dynamically adapt to changing physiological demands. Just give me 1 second. Okay. So in this case, when you can become aware, you don't need to then focus on, food rules and lots of thinking and tight restrictions. When you simply pay attention, it's one of these things, again, it's easier said than done, but, oftentimes, we have kind of emotional check-ins, right? We think about, okay, how am I feeling right now? Am I present? You can do the exact same with hunger, right? It's just kind of letting that part of you speak and not ignoring it. Okay. So how much is too much? So here we will talk about portion size, a little bit about weighing and measuring, and of course, intuitive eating. So portion size always is dependent on your energy levels. So eating fewer calories and expending more energy, would obviously, like I said earlier, equal fat loss. Eating more calories plus resistance training, gaining muscle, you're going to gain weight, right? And then eating the right amount is, to maintain your current body composition. So it's important to identify your energy balance and the factors that can affect, this energy, of course, is sex, age, activity level, and your goals. But one thing that is, kind of handy because it involves your hand are hand portion sizes. So measuring energy and macro intake, doesn't need necessarily, precise targets to kind of be able to achieve goals. So generally what we say, and this is kind of cool, so your palm is generally a serving of protein, okay? A fist of non-starchy vegetables, so things like not potatoes, things like cucumbers, tomatoes, green onions, kind of the stuff that we have in the center there, not including the olives. A cupped hand of carbohydrates, so that could be toast, that could be, your sweet potato, and then your thumb size is your fat, so that can include olive oil, that can include those lovely olives there in the middle, that can include your olive oil or your coconut oil. So generally, just to kind of give you a little example here, I have written down a 1,400 to 2,100 calorie day. That would look like 115 to 170 grams of protein. So that's about 4 to 6 palms of protein. 125 to 185 grams of grams of non-starchy vegetables. So that's about 4 to 6 fistfuls, 4 to 6 cups, cupped hands of carb, and 4 to 6 thumbs of fat. So that's about 50 to 80 grams of fat. It's just a kind of a measurement. Again, it's, it's not as accurate as weighing and measuring, but it's to give you a kind of a good measure and a good metric to use, and a good kind of habit to kind of start to see how much am I actually eating. Okay. Weighing and measuring. I have just come off of a 3-month restricted calorie deficit, training and nutrition program, where I weighed and measured every single thing that I ate. And let me tell you, it was possibly one of the most difficult things that I've ever done. It was incredibly insightful to actually see how much is 150 grams of yogurt, because I played around with it before, weighing and measuring, but to do it strategically, it is not for everybody. It is incredibly restrictive, and you're very dependent on the types of food that you're eating. It's very bland. But what's valuable about it is you really start to see how much food your body needs to function for certain, practices, certain training loads. And one thing that I learned is that carbohydrates really can assist, when you're eating them properly, can really assist in, weight loss and fat loss, and eating the right amount for your body, for your energy levels, will really change your body composition. Intuitive eating is kind of ideally where we all want to be. We want to be able to, know exactly how much food we need when we need it. So intuitive eating is kind of all encompassing of everything that I've talked about so far. It's knowing what your body needs when it needs it. So it's listening to the signals that your body is giving you. And we'll talk about fullness cues in a moment. But intuitive eating is, where we all strive to be at. So time to eat. We often don't think or observe what is actually going on when you eat. Generally, we eat when we're in a rush, or we eat, at the family table, when there's things going on and there's chaos. But when we're really mindful about how we're eating, when all is said and done, and we're sitting down with our meal, generally from a day to day, we don't, think about how we physically feel. We don't physically feel, right? We don't think about our body posture so often when we're eating. We're just kind of trying to get it in, right? It's really important to amplify our physiological feedback. And a great way to do this is to pace your eating. And how you can do this and how you can become more aware of your eating habits is to set a meal timer, is to be very present, is to do something between bites. For example, talking to your family. For example, pacing yourself to the slowest eater. I know I pace myself now to my husband because he's a very slow eater. And, I digest differently. Your body digests more efficiently when you eat slowly. drinking water or sipping wine, whatever, in between meals or in between bites. But it's really important to, take notice of the taste and texture, the inner dialogue, the physical position that you're in. Are you slumped over? Are you standing? Are you laying in bed? Are you kind of slumped over on the couch eating? All of these things kind of, we don't think about it because we just, we eat to live. We don't think about these things, when we're having a meal so often. We often don't think, we don't have, our thoughts and feelings, centered around the taste and texture of the food. So when we can recognize these things, wherever you are in your kind of nutritional journey, awareness will just amplify your understanding of how, your behaviors are with food. So when you eat slowly, our bodily systems just simply work better, especially when we combine it with present moment awareness, purposeful relaxation, and, little to no distractions. So, and then feeling full. So you're done eating and you're finishing up. What does satisfied feel like? What does stuffed feel like? What does overly stuffed feel like? Where can you feel it in your body? We've all had those three feelings before, right? So generally what I like to coach is, if you're looking to lose weight, you're at 80% full. So meaning you can still eat, but you choose not to. So you at 90%, 90 to 100% full, you are kind of, in maintenance mode, right? So you're satisfied. You don't want to eat anymore. You would probably feel sick if you did eat more. And 110 to 120, that is when, you want to gain mass, right? That's for people that are purposely looking to gain mass. So if they're, a fighter or they're, in some kind of, weight division sport, okay? Thinking about your physical sensations, is your food sitting high? Sometimes we can feel our food, kind of still going down, right? When we've just shoveled it all in. Or have we taken the time and the food has gone down at an organic and healthy pace for us to not feel bloated? When you eat slower, you fill up faster on less food. And then in turn, you can stay fuller for a longer period of time. So this will assist in not, then wanting to eat more, 20 minutes after you've put the dishes away. Okay. And then finally, living your life. Like I said at the beginning, there is no magic pill or one size fit all diet, and it's really so dependent on your age, your genes, your sex, your rest and recovery, your level of activity, and of course your personal goals. So, I was saying to a client the other day, what worked for you when you were 20 is not going to work for you when you're 35 or 40. Your body is different. Your metabolism has changed. Your energy levels have changed. So you have to have realistic goals, okay? And actions that can be done repeatedly and repeatedly well so they become sustainable in your life, right? You want to create habits that will become, behaviors, right? Something that you don't have to, it's like a knee-jerk reaction, right? You don't have to think about it anymore. But to get to that place, you have to practice. It's just like practicing the piano. And we don't think about that when we think about nutrition, right? Because we need it. We need it to survive. But these things do not come easy. And we have very specific subjective relationships with food, whether that is, because of how we were raised, right? Or if there was not a lot of food when we were kids, or we were malnourished at one point, or we were shamed for eating, or if we had, weight issues when we were younger. Relationships with food are all born out of those traumas, or of course they can come later in life, right? Eating disorders, whatever. But when we can change, when we can cut the root and start to understand where the root of the problem is, and start to take action from there, and start to take little baby steps and create something that works well for you individually, that's how habit can turn into behavior. Okay, so we must practice these skills that will in turn become our new behaviors. And taking ownership of our choices. If you want the cookie, eat the cookie. Enjoy it, and ask yourself, do I really need this? Do I want it? If yes, then go for it. If no, then put it down, but take responsibility. It's your life. And then finally, pleasure and creativity. Be creative and cook and try new things and experiment and live your life and enjoy what food has to offer. I always say, respect your body and respect the food. They have to work together, right? So you only have one body, we only have one life, so we just need to feed it, and we need to move it, and we need to take care of it. So that is kind of that in a nutshell. So I think that, it's really important, when whatever you decide to do, whatever kind of, path you decide to go on with, whether it is a diet, whether it's keto or paleo or veganism or vegetarianism or carnivore diet, it's knowing yourself and being aware of your capabilities, being aware of, taking the action. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions? I'd like to open up the floor now.
Thanks, first of all, from my side as well. I don't know if you could actually see, I was trying to use the gestures and to use the clap signal, but I don't know if that actually came through or not. I didn't see anything.
That little hand. Thank you.
Yeah. So just a question, because that's actually towards everyone participating. I really benefit, I really like those little, let's say, like little things on the side. For example, one thing you dropped almost as a side note was like, okay, what I do is I chop my vegetables right when I get home to have it prepared, and to then not have the hassle when I need them, basically, right? And I think everyone has things like this they do to make their lives easier. Yeah. And I think everyone has their own struggles, and maybe also discovered fixes for their struggles. So that would be something I would be interested in, not only to hear from you, but also from the other participants. Maybe they have something like this where they say, oh, this is actually something I really struggle with, or I used to struggle with, and then I found out this thing, or I do this differently, and that really worked for me. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just thinking, by maybe some people sharing their experiences, maybe there might be something that we can take away from this as a group.
Does anybody have thoughts?
I could share my experience if you feel like maybe it could be useful for someone else, because I totally agree with everything you said. Because myself, I'm going through, I turned vegan 6 months ago, then I decided to do it properly. So I asked a friend to make a nutritional plan that I'm following, but of course that's a plan that was made by someone else. And going through this first month, I found out that my body works differently than what was planned. And also, I'm following this plan also because I was having some problems with overeating, because we are in a not very easy moment in everyone's life. So I was struggling with that. And what helped me was, as you said, to create a plan, like also my work schedule and my work Google Calendar.
Mhm.
I have at 10, I'm going to have a small something. At 12, I'm going to have lunch. At 4, I'm going to have something else. So
Right.
in my head, I don't follow what I think I need, what I feel like I need.
Mhm.
I want to want, but I go, okay, at 3, I'm going to eat. And I know that I'm not hungry. And if I had something in another moment of the day, it wouldn't be necessary. So, for example, for my body and my mind and my feelings, it really helps me in creating a habit, as you said, and go through these habits day by day and trying to stick to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I you know, I think it's a mistake to ever start too big, right? We need to start small. So I can give you a great example. I have a client that has about four or five coffees a day, and in each one of those coffees, 2 spoonfuls of sugar, 2 things of milk, or 2 tablespoons of milk, or whatever. And I said to him, okay, well, let's look at this under a microscope. Let's look at how much sugar then you're having in a day. Okay. And then let's amplify that. Let's do, a week, right? And so what I said was, let's start small. 1 coffee a day. Let's put in 1 tablespoon of sugar, right? And then let's kind of recalculate everything and see how much less sugar he's having. Try that for 3 days, see how you feel. He comes back to me. Yeah, I was fine with that. Just, 1. So, okay, so let's change that. Let's do 2 coffees like that a day. And, I'm very proud of this because now he's drinking black coffee. But because we did reduce it so slowly, really at like a glacial pace. But now, because we did it in such a slow pace, and we repeated it over and over and over again, it kind of just changed the motivation, right? It was like we took a small action, we repeated it, it worked well, so let's just keep going. It's a marathon, right? It's not a sprint. Weight loss, if you want to call it that, or nutritional knowledge, whatever, it's not a sprint. It's we're gonna have to deal with it for our entire life. So take the time now to find out what works for you. And if it doesn't work, okay, let's go back, let's look at why it didn't work, right? And make a change from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course, totally.
What else?
Rebecca, I wanted to say I like it very much. It was high density information about relationship between me and the food, actually. And well, I liked microwave part too, because I have my biases about microwave cooking. I think I couldn't try. So thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the feedback. Yes. Tim, was that a hand or a thumbs up?
Sorry?
I said, was that a hand or a thumbs up? I don't know. I saw.
No, okay, because you can see me. I can only see your screen, so I wasn't aware. No, thumbs up. Everything is cool so far. It's I'm just thinking of like if I do have any more questions. But
well, I just want to thank you all. So it's almost 9 o'clock, so I won't keep you for too much longer. But I did want to mention one thing, since most of you are members at the gym at Escapist. We are starting a new nutrition kickstart, and this one is a little bit different than what we've done before. It's kind of a 3-phase nutrition kickstart. It's different in the sense that it's not a challenge. And so why it is in 3 phases is because in the first block, we are going to be looking at habit change. We're going to be giving you very specific kind of, practices that you can in place and start to, specific actions that you can start to practice to become skills that could assist you on your, on your own journey. And then the second phase is a little bit more in depth about, rest and recovery and, specific types of food. So maybe more in depth about, cooking and preparing. And then the third phase is really kind of, honing in on, macro counting, macro splits and, doing something that's more target oriented. So if it's something more like, I want to gain mass or I want to lose body fat, we're going to be working, with a more macro centralized kind of concept around that. So looking at exactly how much food and what kinds of food you need for your specific target goal. So we're going to be starting that in a few weeks. So there'll be, emails coming out shortly about that. So if you want to kind of get on that or get some more information about that, it's going to be really cool and kind of a little different than the other challenges that we've done before at the gym. Okay, cool. So I just want to say
thank you so much, Rebecca. I have to digest all the informations.
You're so funny.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great night, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
bye-bye, take care.
You too.
Couldn't find the button.
Bye, Tim.